to say thanks for coming in today, and most importantly, thank you for coming to Mount Matrix for today's presentation of our SOVNOP Learning Series. SOVNOP standing for Sell on Value, not on price. Okay. First of all, let's kind of kick things off so everybody knows who everybody is. My name is John Kolensik. If we come on all the way down here to the bottom, you see my name, John C. Kolensik, phonetically Kolensik. Make it real simple, real easy for everybody. Next thing is, let's kind of brace us for exactly what we do here. The SOVNOP selling system is something we pride ourselves on because it's a logical, not linear selling system, meaning it's not a step-by-step. If you do A, then B has to happen, then C has to happen. Logical meaning we're human beings, and we sell to human beings. And human beings being the most illogical of things on the planet, things are going to change, and things are never going to go in the direction that we expect them to. But what we do is we give you the plan, we give you the tools and the things you need to make sure things are always progressing. Remember, it's progress, it's movement forward that's important, not movement linearly that's important. A couple things on the main page here, www.matriximpact.com is my main website, and then www.buildyoursalesmachine.com, that's my media website, media and events. Also today, we will be taking questions during and after the webinar on Twitter at hashtag INJREV or INJREV, INJREV. So if you got any questions, you want to tweet anything that's going on at any given time during the course of the webinar, or if you decline to stay after the webinar, I always stick around for about 15-20 minutes after to answer additional questions, which I will be doing again today. Please feel free to jet over questions specifically at hashtag INJREV. All right, let's get started and jump right in there. All right, everybody tuned in today to inject yourself into the revenue stream. Inject yourself into the revenue stream. Now, the reason why I got a picture of a guy diving there, it's not for the simple analogy that you'd think of somebody diving in the water revenue stream. That's not it. Diving is a very, very, very difficult sport. Everything that has to happen, from the way you jump to the balance you have to how perfect your body has to be to going in the water, it is very, very difficult. There are so few people in the world that can do it. Well, that's okay, all right? And just like that's okay, it's okay that what we're going to talk about today is very, very difficult. It is. I'm not selling you, something that's super simple to do, and just do this and ABC, and all of a sudden you're going to be rich, making $100,000 a month. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is the stuff that you're going to learn today is going to make you money, but it's tough. It's going to take effort. You're going to have to put your shoulder behind it, but that's okay because not everybody will do it. Not everybody will put the time and effort into it. They just won't. So take advantage of that. Take advantage that you're going to separate yourself by doing the things here. And what are we talking about? We're talking about competitive differentiation. All right, now I got that done. Let's dive right into the topic. What is IBITDA? What is IBITDA? All right, for those of you who have done a webinar before, I usually, or with me that is, I usually go over webinar to-dos in a little bit, but I'll open this up for everybody for right now. Who can tell me what IBITDA stands for? If you can chat that over to me or put that over to me in your question. What does IBITDA stand for? Beep, beep, do, 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 do. Income before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. That is from Roger Hurst. Well done, Roger Hurst. You win. Roger, you're on the list now for most participative. We'll see how you do through the rest of the program, but congratulations, you got it right. It stands for income before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. All right. Why is this phrase, this word so important? Because it gives the true value of an organization. Think about it. After you take out interest and taxes and depreciate stuff and amortize stuff, you can make your number look a lot of different ways. But this is income before all that stuff happens. It is a true pulse of your organization and what you've got coming in. The question is do you know that? Do you know what this is, not only for your organization, but for your clients? Do you know what their IBITDA is? Do you know even ask this question? Do you even know how to go into asking this question and finding out about it? Well, that's what we're going to get into today. All right? This gives you that real picture, the real health of a company. All right, next thing we're going to talk about today. Why do people watch sports? Okay? Well, why do people watch sports? For a couple of reasons, obviously. All right, they watch it, for the big plays. They want to see the big plays being made. They want to see, somebody making a big catch, a touchdown. All right. Then you've got, folks who are like the geeks like me, okay, who watch it for the X's and the O's. All right. We love when John Madden does a pow, bam. This guy, this guy's going over here and he's going to block this guy there and he's going to zip around and touch that Texan over there. We love that. All right. Then you've got the people who go to it for folks like this guy right down here, okay, for Peyton Manning. It doesn't really matter why you watch sports. Okay, now I chose football because just so you guys know, we have a worldwide audience today. We have over 300 people signed up, over 350 people signed up, and right now we have online just a shade over 300 of them, and we got people from as far away. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. We got people from as far away as Russia, as close as right down the street from me, but we're all over the board today. All right, so I picked football, one of the most American of sports. So getting back to it, though. We watch it for different reasons, for the big play, the X's and O's, because we like it. We also like to see those people who do it. Well, let's think about that. Let's first backward engineer. Let's look at the Peyton Mannings, the big stars of the game. Those guys are percentage players. Those guys get big dollars, don't they? Well, why do they get big dollars? Okay? They get big dollars because they're great players. But think about that. Go deeper. All right? Think about it as a business person. They're not getting big dollars just because they're super talented with their hands and their feet. They're getting super dollars, big dollars, because they put butts in the seats. They're percentage players. They get people to show up. Because they're so good, people show up to watch them. A guy like Michael Vick, who went through a big problem a couple years ago with the whole dog fighting business and all of that happened. Well, people show up to watch him. Some of it's almost a train wreck, and some of it's because he's a fantastic talent. But the bottom line, they show up to watch him. Hence, he commands more dollars. He's a percentage player. He's dipped his toes into the revenue stream of that company. Now, we watch for the big plays. That ties together with those big players. And the X's and the O's, the coach can draw it up. That's why coaches get lots of money too. Because they win, they put a winning product on the field, because they put together something that actually looks good when it's playing, more people show up. More jerseys are sold, more food and concessions are sold, and on it goes. People watch sports. Why? They watch sports to watch the game for different reasons. But why do people get paid so well in sports? Because they're percentage players. They bring in a perceived value. Okay. Now let's take this and dissect this just a shade more. Think about it in terms of your business, all right? The non-revenue generators, or think about it in terms of football. Who are the first people to get cut? The people who can't add to the product, the people who can't make the product do better, people who can't make the product more attractive to the audience, okay? It's the same thing in business. The non-revenue generators, the people that are perceived. I want to use the word perceived because I don't want to step on any toes. People are perceived to be non-revenue generators. Many times it's administration. Many times it's HR. Folks like that, they aren't perceived to generate revenue. They're the first to be fired because they don't have their toes in the revenue pool. They are not seen as pushing the whole company forward by adding to the bottom line. Well, if you don't add to the bottom line, what good are you to the company? And as a salesperson, if you can't find a way to do that, what good are you to the company? Or more importantly, how do you differentiate yourself from the competition? Let's talk about that for a second. All right, so what we've got here is we've got a little race. Okay, so we've got these different cars. So let's calculate these cars. Okay, it should take 150 seconds. Let's click go. And there they go. All right, so you got these three cars. They're all going the same exact speed. They all finish the same. What's that meant to signify? Well, simple. It's meant to signify you and your competition, all going the same speed, all doing the similar things all the time. Now you might say, well, gosh, John, my product's different. My features on my product or service, they blow away the competition. Well, that's fine and dandy. I guarantee you that's what the competition is saying about you. Then somebody else on the audience might be out there saying, well, my customer service is different, John. My customer service, what's this? Let's get rid of that. My customer service is different, John. I'm much better customer service than my customer or than my competition. Well, you don't think that your competition is saying the same thing about you? My point is everybody's doing the same things over and over again. Unless we choose to do things differently, unless we choose to change the variable, in this case, choosing the speed, we will always have the same result. So today, if for no other reason, what I want you guys to think about is, what do we need to do to change the result? What variable do we need to do to change the result? What thing can we change in what we do will change the result? Hence, get a different result. And in this case, the red car wins, all right? And one of my favorite quotes is from Ralph Waldo Emerson regarding this. Foolish consistencies are the hobgoblins of little minds. Just don't do things over and over again just to say that you did it, and that's the way we always did it. Sometimes you've got to change, and that's what the point of this program today is. Okay. Webinar how-tos. Let's jump into this. Okay, you can hear me, but I can't hear you, as evidence, obviously, that I've been sitting here yakking for the last few minutes. Okay, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. You can ask me a question by your little tab bar over to the right-hand side there. Roger, that's how you tabbed over to me what IBITDA was. Very good. You know, your very first time doing that. Good job. Okay, everybody else, you can do the same thing. Okay, you can also chat to me at the bottom and chat to me specifically, so you can get things over to me along those lines as well. But if you've got a specific question, do it that way. You can also on Twitter send it out to hashtag INJREV, and I will be checking that periodically. All right. All right. Next, I stay on the webinar typically 20 minutes or so afterwards to answer additional questions, and then today 20 to 60 minutes to answer additional questions. Today I'll also be monitoring all through the day on Twitter at hashtag INJREV. This is a particularly deep topic that we're in today, so I'm going to put in the time that's necessary to make sure everybody gets good return on investment, that I dip my toes into your revenue stream and move you forward. So I will be monitoring all day, making sure things are going the right way and I'm answering your questions. All right. Before I get going, because I've been talking for a little bit, anybody got any specific questiones? Anything I can help them with while they got me on, on a pause time here? All right, nothing? Let's give it a second here. Do. All right. Let me go through here real quick. I think I got a question. Sounds good. Okay. All right. Steve says what? Okay. Dave says what? Okay, we're good there. Mary, Tolga. Okay. All right, we're good to go. Let me introduce you to some folks who will be helping us out today. All right, this is a group of superheroes who, quite frankly, are the top 7% in anything that has to do with business. They're called the Best Practice League. They're led by their leader, Matrix Man, as you see right here up at the top. Matrix Man, he's one of these special superheroes, just so if anybody wants to know, that's what I look like when I wear my superhero outfit. That's, it was modeled after me. But Matrix Man is the leader of the Best Practice League, and down below we have the different members of the Best Practice League. From left to right, we've got Urgent. Urgent's the guy who helps move us along. We're going to be talking about Urgent today and bringing Urgent up in a couple different situations. Oh, there he goes. Urgent, where are you going? Urgent, come on back. Okay. Then we also got Coach down there. Coach is the guy who helps us understand the difficult concepts, and he walks us through a lot of stuff. Does a nice, easy fashion. He also helps us with drilling simulations, making sure we know what we're doing on the continued development side. Timetable makes sure that we're set up and we're doing things smartly, and we're always keeping our time in mind. And timetable is also kind of important today. We're going to talk about that. Over to the timetable's left, we have the question. Question, we're not going to be seeing a whole lot of her today, but the question is important overall in terms of sales, because without the question, nothing else happens. If you spend all your time presenting, well, you're screwed. You've got to spend your time listening and asking questions, and that's what she teaches us. Gage is over there as well to her left. Gage helps out on the simulations, hiring and assessment, that type of thing, so we won't be seeing a whole lot of him today. But we'll also be seeing a little bit of contact over there at the very end, that pretty redhead down at the end of the line there. She's our master of lead generation, making sure she's reaching out and touching just about everybody that's out there. Well, just like any good superhero team, knows their job and will go out there and take care of business, every superhero team also has their villains that they have to face, and the Best Practice League is no different. The Best Practice League has to deal with M.O.B.B, the Masters of Bad Business. All right? And we've got some nasty guys here, all right? Nasty folks in the Masters of Bad Business. First of all, we've got the leader of M.O.B.B, and the leader of M.O.B.B is that little guy with the little brain, and he's right there, and his name's Dr. Know-It-All. Dr. Know-It-All is just what he says. He thinks he knows it all, just what you want in a bad business person. Then from left to right, we've got the Master Manipulator, which everybody thinks salespeople are already manipulative. We got Time Thief, who's the enemy of timetable. Then we've got Disogre, the person who's keep you disorganized and loosey-goosey and not knowing where everything is, papers everywhere, not knowing where your proposals are, terrible work on your CRM. Then finally, we have Mr. Presentation, and Mr. Presentation is that guy that sits there and just talks, and never shuts up. He doesn't know, him and Question get in quite a bit of fights because Question's a listener and Mr. Presentation's a talker. And that's M.O.B.B, Masters of Bad Business. We may see them cropping up here as we go through today's program. All right, so let's dive in. First up, quick reality check. Where are you for the year? All right, are you above quota? Are you below quota? All right. Now, why am I bringing this up here? Why is this something to know? What are we trying to do with this? Well, it's simple, folks. We've got to know where we stand. Okay, what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about injecting yourself in the revenue stream, and there's one big portion of this that ties directly to that. Okay, obviously, and that's making money. But to make money, you've got to have something. You've got to know where you're at all times. You've got to know what you need to do to go to the next level, to the next step. If you don't know where you're at, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know where you're at right this second, well, first of all, shame on you, and then figure it out. You've got to know where you are for the year. The year's running out. We've got about 4 months, little over 4 months left. Think about that. 4 months left in the year. If you're on a calendar year, if you're not on a calendar year, if you're on if your business runs on a different business time, you're at different spots. But know where you're at for the year. All right, tying to that, what are the 2 longest selling cycles of the year? All right. First longest one, January 4th to Memorial Day. Well, we blew past that one already. We're past that. That gives us approximately, that time period gives us 105 business days to sell. The next one is when we're coming up to. The day after Labor Day to the day before Thanksgiving. Now, I apologize to the people around the world. I am talking about American holidays here, but just so you understand, our Labor Day is September 5th. Our Thanksgiving is usually it's always the last Thursday in November, so it's usually the 24th, 25th, 25th, just to give everybody who are our international folks an idea. What that means is we have 55 business days between Labor Day and before Thanksgiving. Let's kind of tie all this together here so you know where we're coming from. There's 251 total selling days in the year, all right? And there are 23 business days, between Christmas and Thanksgiving. And now you take where we're at in August, so that puts us just a shade under 100 days. Just a shade under 100 days of where we're at for closing business for the rest of the year. And somewhere in the neighborhood, 75, 80 days, depending on vacations and timetables and that kind of stuff. But why are we talking about days in the year? Because of urgency, because of urgent, all right? Keep in mind where we're at, what needs to get done. You've got about 75 to 85 days left in the year to get things done. Doesn't get much more urgent than that, folks. All right, moving right along. What's the basis for today? Let's get one thing perfectly clear before I talk about any ideas, techniques, tips, or anything, etc. And that one thing is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Now, this is a copyrighted phrase. It's copyrighted by me. If you choose to use it, that's fine. You just owe me money. I'm not joking, not hardly joking. It is a copyrighted phrase. But people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. What's my point? We've got to find a way to show what we want from somebody, but do it in a way that's different than anybody else. We've got to find a way to show that we're interested in their business, that we're interested in them, because otherwise all that's going to happen is business is going to blow up. It's as simple as that, folks. We've got to show people that we care about them and their business. The question to answer is, how can we show them? How do we do that? And hopefully by the end of today, we'll have given you some ideas on how exactly to do that. Okay, setting the stage. I'm going to start off today setting the stage, and you'll notice today in this process it's weighted heavily in the front end, and there's a reason for that. It's weighted very heavily in the front end, and there's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that as we go on. Okay, let's get started here. Earlier I was talking about time and urgency, and I said the most important thing that you can have really is time, because think about it. Without time, you've got nothing. Without time, you can't move forward. Without time, you can't do anything. But if time is the most important thing, what's the second most important thing? Well, there's no question about it. The second most important thing is information and the power of information. Okay? There is nothing that you can do if you don't have time, but if you don't have the information once you have that time to share with folks, nothing else is going to matter either. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by information? There are different types of information that you can share with your customers. There's novelty information, meaning information that's unique, that's different. It might be unique to you, it might be unique to marketplace, it might be unique in a way that they're not aware of it, that they don't know. Okay? But that's good. It's novel to them. Also, there's situations in scarcity of information. When it's hard to find the information, hard to find data that they're trying to get to move forward. And then finally, there's something called abundance of information. And anybody who's in management that's listening today, and based on the signups, we have somewhere in the neighborhood about 75 to 85 people just who put it down. Who knows how many total there are, 75 to 80 people that are in management. Abundance in information rarely exists out there in the world. It's usually scarce, and it's usually something that we can get to that's unique, all right? But there is rarely an abundance of information, which is why it's important for us to be ports in that storm, to be that person that can provide that, because what you see over to the right is that's what's called a black hole, for those of you who don't know. A black hole is, an area in space or a collapsed star that has such tremendous gravity that sucks in everything else around it, including light. Light can't even escape its gravity. Well, it's no different when there's a void of information. Okay, it's what people want to know, whatever it might be, something about their business, something about their marketplace, something about their industry, something, but it's a void, and they don't have it right now. If you can find a way to find that content or create that content that they crave, you will take in the first steps of differentiation. But the question is, how do you do it? We're going to get to that. All right. So what are we talking about? Learn to love the internet, or LTLTI. Oh, there he is. I always hate to see him. Dr. Know-It-All. He thinks he knows everything already. And I'm telling you, that happens a lot in sales. We think we know it already. We think we know everything already. But we really don't, folks. What we know is our product. What we know is our company as a general rule. But do we know everything that we need to know about marketplace? Do we know everything we need to know about our customer's product? Do we know everything we need to know about what's important to each of them? All right? Do we know these things, your market, your customers? Do you know revenue stream about them and how things affect their revenue stream, including ROI of not just what they do, but of your product and service? What's the return on investment of your product and service, and not just something that your marketing department came up with? What counts at that business? What about, for them, something that has nothing to do with you, or doesn't it? All right. Retention and location of top employees. Those of you who are in management out there, tell me that retention and location of top employees isn't a concern, isn't important to you. And I don't care what your industry is, it is, because without the best folks, you're not going to do anything. In sales, without the best folks, you're not going to sell. In manufacturing, without the best folks, you're not going to manufacture, and so on. And finally, what about the love-hate relationship people have with logistics and resources? We all need these things. We all have to figure out how to do certain things. Timing in terms of trucking, or in sales, in terms of marketing, or in manufacturing and operations, in terms of scheduling. There are logistics and resources that we have to deal with all the time. How do these things impact each other? Or how do they combine relevance to mean something to the customer? How do they combine relevance to impact what they do and impact their revenue stream? And more importantly, how do these things in combined relevance resonate with you? Do you even know that they exist? What are they for your market? What are they for your customers? How do these things work? Ask yourself these questions, folks. I'm telling you, Dr. Know-It-All here, he doesn't know it. Listen to Coach. Coaches walk you through this. You've got to figure this one out for yourself, but these are the kind of questions you've got to be asking. Learn to love the internet part 2, some example of industry resources, all right? Industryweek.com, automation.com, americanbanker.com, Woodstock Wire, Coatings World. I could, excuse me, I could read off a laundry list to you of different industry publications that are out there that you can use for your industries, okay? And I will, if you guys got anything that you're interested in, if you have something that you're looking for, if you've got something that you're trying to get into, if you've got something that you need some help with, let me know. I will help you. Email over to me. Send over to the hashtag. I will look it out to you, okay? Or I will look out for you and look for these things. But you need to give me some direction, and you need to give yourself some direction. What are the things you're looking for? What are you trying to do? And then I can help you find these resources, but they're out there, folks. And if you don't actively go out there pinging for these things, searching for these things, trying to find these things, well, gosh help you, because nobody else will. You've got to find what's going on out there. All right. Once we've started to gather that information, we've started to get things together there, the next step is we've got to develop the relationship, all right? We've got to develop the relationship. So the question is how do we translate all that work that we just did into money, okay? I'm not a relationship guru coach here. I'm not going to sit there and tell you about, oh, you should be feeling this and feeling that. I am talking about translating work into dollars, translating relationship into dollars. But how do you do it? How do you do it in the highest, most impactful way, in the way that differentiates you the most from your competition? That's what the question is. And quite frankly, how do we do it in a way that brings dollars into your pocket? First, let's talk about reaching out and how do you do it, all right? And the different ways that we do it. And over there, we've got Contact helping us out today. Contact will be looking out for us and showing us some of the different ways to be reaching out and touching folks, okay? It's method, process, and then now what? So first of all, let's start with method, okay? In method, what we're really talking about here is we're really talking about that competitive differentiation. All right, that's what we're talking about. Oh, that last part didn't come out. Oh, sorry about that. Went back to the pen for a second. Differentiation. Okay, that's what we're talking about. But this is what we're trying to create. The question is how we're trying to create it. The bottom line is we got to look at things is what we are in. We're in a knowledge economy. If you don't believe that, if you think that things are done, purely by what sits on shelves and what gets pushed back and forth by truck, then folks, I don't care what it is you sell. I don't care if you do sell manufactured products. That is not what you're selling. We're in a knowledge economy. That means that we're in an idea business. And in an idea business, we have to be thought leaders. And the only way to become those folks are to do that research and to find those things out that I talked about. And in another way we're going to talk about in a little bit. But let's combine a couple other things together here too. All right. What we've got to do is find a way to stay relevant to these folks at all time. I call it the big three. All right. Relevancy, consistency, and timing. We've always got to stay relevant. Relevant is kind of an ambiguous phrase, but it's relevant to what or to who. Let's give you an example. Okay, so let's, we got the different circles here. So over here is somebody's business. Over here is somebody's personal life. Right here in the middle is where you should live. What I mean by that is if somebody's business is, let's say we got we got a medical device manufacturer salesperson out there. If somebody's business is a hospital, okay, and their personal life, happens to, be that they like, I don't know, let's say they like zombies, okay, they like zombie movies. Well, anything that you can combine, zombie information with the medical information, you don't think that that's going to get a bigger hit with that person? Okay, even if it's something silly, and you're talking about, hey gosh, The Walking Dead, that new TV show that's coming back when in October. Well, that's great. Hey, well, I got you on the phone, bang, and you move right into stuff. You've got to be able to combine things together, but be relevant to the person you're talking to. Consistency. You've got to sit there and always be providing them information. Once you've set yourself up to be that source of information, the minute you stop, and I mean, folks, the minute that you stop, they will find somebody else. They will find somebody else that they're looking for and somebody else that can give them that information. That black hole, people don't exist in that void. They're always out there craving more and more information. And then finally, timing, okay? You've got to find a way to get on a timing schedule where you're getting things off to people in the time that matters most to them, all right? That's a whole other webinar, folks, timing and getting things off to them in the way that's best for them. And it's when you get it. You get it out in the morning, in the afternoon, weekends, this, that, everything. That's a whole other webinar. But how frequent as well, okay? Once a week, once a month, twice a week. Are there stratification layers, okay? Are there layers that we go through, meaning are there, some folks get this. For instance, there are people that got invitations to this webinar that might be the only thing that they get from me. There are people on that got the invitation to the webinar that also get a newsletter from me. And there are people that got the invitation to the webinar that got the newsletter, and they get other things from me as well. It's all over the board. My point, you've got to figure out what that timing is, and it's not going to be a one-size-fit-all kind of thing. It's going to be, everybody's going to be a little bit different. Then you combine the relevancy and the consistency with the timing, and then you've built something there. You've got a good method to start competitively differentiating yourself from the competition. Remember, knowledge economy, idea business, thought leader. Okay, you got to be a thought leader. If you're not, if you just think that you're pushing a product, folks, then please feel free to click off this webinar right now. Just joking. Okay, moving along. So what's the process, okay? What's the process that we're talking about here? Well, when we talk about process, one of the things that we're talking about in the process is we want reproducible results. Otherwise, why do a process? Just do it differently every time and see what happens, okay? That's what we want from the process. But what are we looking at? We're looking to do things in a different way that's going to get across to folks. And let me, volunteer a couple of ideas to you. Okay, first thing I want to volunteer to you. Okay, cold calling. I know, dirty word, blah blah blah. And believe me, these kind of conversations go on on the internet all the time, whether it be on LinkedIn or whatever the forum is. It's not cold calling. Cold calling sucks. Cold calling is this. Okay. Let's just forget about the phraseology. I'm just saying cold calling has the most understood, recognizable word. Think of cold calling as an initial contact, okay? Don't think about it as anything else. It's an initial contact. It's not dead. The odds that you're going to be able to warm call everybody, okay, and warm everything up are those two guys who just left town. Believe me, I am the biggest advocate to warming up calls before you do that, but there are just some situations where you got to doing cold calls, and it's not dead. Think of it as an initial touch to find some information of who you need to contact or who you can get into. Also remember, sales is like lightning sometimes. You can get lucky just by picking up that phone and reaching somebody by calling somebody. You're making phone calls at 5:30 to 6:30, making calls at night, that is, or making calls between 7 o'clock in the morning and 8:30. You might get lucky and reach that decision maker because you're calling at a better time, all right? So don't think of cold calling as dead. Think of it as merely a first touch. It's an initial contact. That's all that can direct us in other ways. And then that direction is going to lead to getting people off other things. And those other things could be emails. The other things could be, like I was talking about, ideas about newsletters, could be articles from those different resource sites that we talked about, or in my case, you guys get the one newsletter with my blog, the Fantastic Sales Forum that goes out there, matricimpact.com/FSF for my standard plug there. That has different articles on there and different content. There's also social media, okay? What industry blogs, what boards, what trade shows, what management groups, what social groups, what forums on LinkedIn does your customer go to? All these different things are out there. How about this? Let's give you another one. Let's give you one specific way, okay? And this is a very highly successful method that I've used on multiple different clients, all right? It's called the executive assistant contact, all right, or the EAC. The idea is this: going through and reaching a decision maker, particularly the highest levels, which is what we're talking about here today. Getting to the highest levels, it's tough. The odds that you're going to get through to them on one phone call, one letter, one email, it's pretty tough. So what do we do, or what do I teach to do? It's the EAC, the executive assistant contact. First contact is either a letter or a phone call to an executive assistant. And in that letter or phone call, what it's doing is asking for permission to send an email to their boss, okay? What's going to happen? Sometimes they're going to say yes. A lot of times they're going to say no. That's okay. At that point, what you do is ask them for that permission to instead to present to you and allow them to present it to their boss. Is that going to get through all the time? Again, maybe not, maybe no, okay? But just sit with me for a second here. Then you construct your letter or your script, your phone call that you want to have. Normally it's to do a 15 or 20-minute phone call, whatever it might be, and you make sure that you get the right information, check it, send it out, and then you follow up with everybody. Now you might say, well, gosh, John, the executive assistants, they're meant there to be gatekeepers. They're going to try and block us from getting through. Well, yeah, you're not wrong, okay? You're not wrong there. Things are going to happen. They're going to do stuff like that. But what else is going to happen? Okay, you're going to get a hit rate. I've averaged as high as 55% hit rate with those executive assistants by getting that out. 55%, think about that. Reaching an executive assistant and them getting it through to their highest level contact. And even if you don't get to that level contact, by being this polite person and doing it the right way, you can ask them, well, who would be the right person? And many times they're going to feel indebted to you to actually bring you something else because you were so polite and treated them with respect. Always look for different ways, folks. How do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? One way is information. Another way is the method that we go about doing things, all right? If you're looking for more ideas, I've got a bunch of them, all right? Give me a call. Jot something over to me over on the Twitter, on the Twitter hashtag, okay? And that hashtag is what? Hashtag INJREV. Very good. Okay. Jot that stuff over and move on from there. Point is, there's always got to be something that we can differentiate ourselves from. Look at the different forums, industry blogs, become an expert in your industry, be different, and start to see more reproducible results. So now we combine those couple things together, all right, and where can we go at that point? What can we do next? All right. Oh, you know what? I'm going to stop for a second here before I get into the next slide, and I'll tell you why. I've just got 6 questions that came over. I only have time to, let's get through a couple of them here. Okay, first question I have from Inga. Inga's from Brussels. Inga, okay. Inga's question is, in terms of the EAC, the Executive Assistant Contact, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading her writing. That's why I'm taking my time here. Okay, she's saying, okay. So she's saying, how many touches? She's saying, how many touches to the executive assistants does it usually take before you get to the top level, to the person that they're protecting? Inga, the answer to that is it varies, but what I've averaged is about 2 touches, meaning that first touch goes to the executive assistant, but when you get that high percentage, when we're having customers that are hitting that 55, 45 type percentage of hitting and getting into that higher level, it's because it's getting through immediately, because the phrasing of whether it be the phone call or the email that we've done is so tight that it goes through nice and smooth. And it's a very, very, very high percentage like that. So, I know that's not for everybody, but that's what my advice to you is make sure whatever you're doing that you take the time to script this and put as much time into the scripting as you do into the research, because that's very, very crucial. If you need help on that, I will help you. But, that's what I'm talking about. The tighter that is, the better your chance of moving it forward. Got another question from Bill about the EAC. how much time do I spend on following up on other things that the executive assistants might give me? What Bill's asking is how much time do I spend following up when I follow up, or rephrase it, when my customers are following up with other contacts that the executive assistants are giving out. That, again, it varies, but you'll be surprised, Bill, at the different types of information that you get and what they'll give you. Again, it's all about how you're doing it. Because you're being so polite and doing things the right way, these people are going to volunteer more stuff to you. And, I don't have an exact, an exact timetable on how much that we spent on that, but I will tell you this, many times it's actually led to something better, where we tried to reach out to one contact where we thought that the right person was operations manager, or the right title was something like that, but it actually turned out to be something totally different. And by doing this method, the executive assistant gave us the absolute right person based on job function, and because of that, they gave us the right person, directed the right way, and what happened? Wound up getting business out of it. All right, any other questions? Got a couple. You know what? We'll get back. I'm gonna collect some of these questions, and we're gonna go. We're gonna hit more of them after the thing. So we gotta keep on rolling through the process here today. Get it? Process? Okay. So then now what? Okay. After we've taken the time, okay, and we've put things together, and we have a method, we have a process, we're competitive differentiating ourselves, we're creating reproducible results. The question is, now what? Well, now what we have to do is we always have to evolve. You always have to evolve here. And the way you do that is by monitoring, measuring, and modifying. This is one part where our friend Gage helps us out. You've always got to monitor, measure, and modify where you're at and what's going on. What's working? What's not? Is the EAC program working? Is it better when we just reach out to the executives themselves? Is it better when we reach out through the forums? What you're going to find more often than not, folks, it's just like anything else. There's not going to be one all-encompassing, one thing that's surefire home run all the time. It's going to be more like pressing multiple levers across. It's not going to be pushing one big button and everything changes. It's going to be pressing a lever here, a lever there, a lever there, a lever there, and everything working in concert as a general rule. But don't leave that up to chance. Don't leave that, well, John said, measure, monitor, and modify. It's going to be different for everybody. And remember this, when we're executing this correctly, what we've begun to do is create a relationship. And this relationship is now going to transcend your product and service. Because we're doing things in a way, we're reaching out in a way, and providing content and information in a way that competition won't do, because it's too damn hard. They will not do it. But if you take the time to do it and put your shoulder into it and really push, you can really see some results from it. And the nice thing is, like I said, not everybody will be doing it because it's too damn hard. It's just like in life. The best relationships we have are the ones that we put the most time into. I get into arguments all the time with people when I'm in front of customers, and they tell me, "Oh yeah, I've got a great relationship with my customer. I talk to them once a year." That's not a relationship. That's a booty call at best. All right, that's a drive-by. Hey, what are you selling today? And you're gone. That is not a relationship. A relationship is staying in contact, but staying in contact in a way that removes what I call the UGG factor. So when you're calling folks, that they're not going, "Oh, hi, John." You're removing that UGG factor. They're looking forward to talking to you because why? You're a resource to them, and you're bringing something. And like I said, just like in life, those are the kind of relationships that work. Think of anybody, if anybody out there is married, you got a significant other. You don't get a good relationship if you just do nothing and just sit on the sofa and hope that they bring you food. You've got to put it in. You got to put the work into it to get a good relationship. And just like a good relationship, you monitor, measure, and modify. What's working? What's not working? Does she like me taking her to these restaurants? Does he like going to these kind of movies? Remove the UGG factor so when you call her for a date or he calls you, that's not, "Ugh, hi, John." Keep on doing these things. Execute the system correctly, and you'll begin this relationship that's going to transcend business. It's going to put you on a path to being a resource with these folks. All right. Questions? I know I just took questions, but giving everybody a chance. That one went a little fast. All right. Whoops, wrong way. Wrong way. All right, and one more. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. So we've put together our system. We've put together our process. We've put together our method. Okay. We're doing these different things now. Now let's talk about one more level of combined relevance, okay, that we can do. We're talking about adding information. We're talking about changing the method and ways that we reach out to folks. Now let's talk about something I like to call my mini sales MBA program from the Academy of Best Practices, presented by Matrix Impact, where sales excellence is your reward. What are some of the things you need to know? Okay. Now, obviously, we can't go into a full-blown MBA program here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through some of the key words and phrases that you absolutely have to know, like IBITDA, if you're going to move forward in the business world. Annual report. You got to know what an annual report is. And if you don't, shame on you. Figure it out. Here's the definition. Everybody's going to get slides, okay? And also make sure you got annual reports of all your companies, okay? Most companies that do these things are proud of these annual reports. They put a lot of time and money into them. Have an annual report of your customers. Okay, asset, what is that? It's a resource, a money value, including cash, accounts receivable, inventory, real estate, machinery. Know what an asset is. So when you're talking to the highest levels, you know what they're talking about. Balance sheet. What is a balance sheet? What does that mean to the customer? When they talk about a balance sheet, how do you fit into a balance sheet when you're selling them something? Current ratio. The worth of a company contained in current assets, including cash, accounts, receivables, and inventory, divided by financial liabilities. All right. Current ratio. What is their current ratio? How are they doing? Debt to equity ratio, dividing long-term risk by the equity. All right. All assets, that is. Point is, how do all these things fit together? Okay. How do these things fit together with your product? Have you even thought about how your product fits on somebody else's balance sheet or current ratio or debt to equity ratio? Depreciation. If you're selling hardware, can they depreciate you? If you think that people don't depreciate your hardware, you're wrong. And if you think that people don't depreciate a service, if that's what you sell, you're absolutely wrong. People depreciate everything. They may not do it in dollar-wise, but they'll do it in other ways too. Okay, equity. What's the equity that you put into that business? What do you add to that business? Bottom line. Income statement. You know, this is one of the things that's basically like the daily, you know, for use a teenager's vernacular. It's like the Facebook of business. Income statement. It's a daily financial statement of a firm that presents both revenues and expenses during a specified time period. I know of many business owners, managers, directors that get daily income statements and know where things are going. What's their liquidity? All right. What's their assets that can be converted into cash, and to the degree that they can obtain the full cash value of an investment? How liquid are they? Net income. What's their profit after taxes? Net profit margin, a measure of a company's profitability and efficiency calculated by dividing a measure of net profits. How does our product fit into this? How does it fit into these things? How does the service we provide these folks fit into these things? If you don't know, then shame on you. Net sales, operating costs and expenses, profit margin, real rate of return, total debt to total assets, valuation. All these things are real. One of the things that you should be thinking about is, how do you work these words into a proposal? How do you work these words into questions? How do you work these words into a presentation or into a phone call? If you're trying to get a hold of an executive and you use something along the lines of real rate of return, the percentage of return on investment over 1 year, adjustments for inflation or deflation, that your product shows a real rate of return of X. You don't think that's going to perk up some ears? If you talk about something in terms of profit margin, okay, to what your product can show, valuation, what you can add to the value of the company. If you talk about something that your product can show in terms of equity, that can add to the liquidity of the company, that can make the net profit margin of the company higher, and so on and so on. If you can show these things, if you know how to use these words and you use them correctly with the customer and you use them in a way that the customer knows that you know what you're talking about, all of a sudden you're not a salesperson anymore, folks. Now you are a consultant. You're a business resource. You're somebody that they want to talk to because you're just not selling features and benefits. Well, you see, the extended arm on this product allows for increased reach and frequent. What a bunch of crap. Learn their language. Learn how they talk. particularly CFOs. If anybody who sells something over $10,000, $15,000, if you don't think that you're dealing with CFOs or there's somewhere down the line that they get involved, at least CFO level folks, and there are many different levels of different folks after that and before and after that. If you don't think you're dealing with these people, well then you are dead dog wrong. Learn the language of the people that you want to spend the most time with, and the people you want to spend the most time with are executives. Executives. And if you don't want to spend the most time with the executives, if you say, well, gosh, Sean, I really just need to spend time with operations managers and warehouse and dock managers, well, I say, good luck and happy life making $45,000, $50,000 a year for the rest of your life. If you want to make over $100,000, you want to make $250,000 a year, you want to be approaching those kind of numbers, you've got to learn to talk to the highest levels. It's as simple as that. You don't, all you're doing is shooting yourself in the foot. Questions? All right. Okay. Good question. How do you, oh, there's one. This is from Stephen in Nebraska. Stephen in Lincoln, Nebraska. Stephen's question is, well, what if we don't have an MBA? What if all we're doing is looking at these words that you have here, okay? Well, first of all, let's make something very, very clear to everybody. These words that I have here that I presented to you today, they're not the end-all, be-all, okay? These are just a grouping of words that I took to give you an example of some of the things that you need to know to talk to the higher levels in business, okay? That's the first thing. Next thing is this isn't meant to be a true MBA class where you learn what all these things are, but you don't have to necessarily take an MBA course. If you do, fantastic. All the power to you, and I highly recommend if you can do it, if you have the will, the time, and the money to do it, do it. But if not, just learn how these things work, okay? Now, getting back to the question from Stephen from Lincoln, Nebraska. How do you work these things in? Well, figure it out, Stephen. What is it, the product that you sell, okay? Let's use me as an example, okay? I teach sales. So what am I talking to people about? I'm talking about how I increase their net sales. I'm talking about people how I increase their costs, but I also increase their profit margin. So I give them a real rate of return of investment, okay? Or I increase their their value of their business, and so on and so on. Learn the words, how it fits with your business. And like I said, you might be somewhere, you only deal with operation managers and such. But that's not bad. That's not the wrong thing, because operation manager answers to somebody too. If they know that you're talking in a language that their boss speaks, they're going to feel comfortable recommending you to talk to their boss. Or if the boss has to come in and talk about that you can talk to both the operations and his boss. Isn't that better? Isn't that the way that you want to build your relationship, Steve? That you want to be able to talk to all the different levels and not just fit with just that one little group? I mean, isn't that what all of life is about, is not sitting there to be content just to stay with this one little finite group of people that we never break out from, that what we're actually trying to do is expand? That's what I'm talking about here. Find a way to expand. Find a way to grow your influence. And folks, the only way I know to grow influence, the only way that I know to do that is to learn, to find out what these words mean. Like I said, I could do a vocabulary test with you and all that kind of crap, but that's really not what's going to do it. You guys got to put in the time. Talk to the people in your business. I promise you, your business got CFOs, got financial managers, got all these different positions. Talk to them. Learn more about that. The worst case that's going to happen is you're going to get a little more educated, and your company's going to see that you're interested in how their company works, and you're interested in getting better. And what's so bad about that? And that's the worst case. The best case is you're going to start making some real money. Real money. All right, Stephen, that's your question? Okay, thanks, Steve. All right. So how and why your customers will continue to use and expand on your service and products? Well, I kind of just expounded on that in Stephen's question, but what we're really talking about is combining a couple things here: competitive differentiation, combined relevance. All right, we're combining those two things together. Now we've started to differentiate ourselves, both on what we bring to the table, okay, how we bring it to the table, what we say to them, and then finding out things about them and about their business. We're combining our relevance in a way that it hasn't existed before. And what we're doing actually, if you boil it down, is we're finding ways to show them we care about them. We're finding ways to find out things about them. People will now care because you are showing them how much you know, and not just how much you know about your product and your features and your benefits, but how much you know about their business and how they do things. People will care how much you know because now they know how much you care. That's what it's all about, folks. Competitive differentiation, combining relevance, and then showing people how much you care. And if there's anything, let's tie it all the way back to the very beginning. The very most important thing that I talked about that you have is time. It's going to take time to do this. And by you investing your time in doing this, that's going to show them how important they are to you. They're not just going to be something on your call sheet, your prospect list. They are now a true partner with you. No more Uggs. Also, you combine time with ideas. The next thing that you have. You're sharing your most valuable commodities with them. Your time, your ideas by doing these things. That's how you show them how much you care. All right. Okay, folks. Let's wrap things up and go through some house cleaning here. First, thank you so much for attending. I greatly appreciate everybody who came. Like I said, we had just a little over 300. It looks like we ticked up to about 323 during the course of today. We've got a couple things I want to go through. Everybody, like I told you, for attending today's webinar, you get free access to Sold Magazine. Sold Magazine is a monthly digital sales magazine dedicated to helping sales professionals. If you go to soldlab.com/subscribe, you can sign up for that magazine and get it for free. All right, it's a great magazine. I use it. I get a lot of my ideas there. Of course, I refer back to them, but it's a great magazine. I highly recommend you take advantage of the free offer here. All right. Today's winner of making Charlie Sheen winner of Making Ideas Happen by Scott Belsky is Carol Goddard. Golf clap. Thank you, Carol. Carol, you'll be receiving a copy of Making Ideas Happen by Scott Belsky in the mail. It appears that you're still on. You have to be on to qualify. Just make sure that you're trying to, I'm toggling through the list here. All right. Winner of today's best question was one that I actually didn't answer, okay, because it was so deep in the weeds that I couldn't get to it, and I apologize, but it was that good of a question that it'll be something that I answer on Twitter, or I might answer later on after the program to give you guys some time if you guys got anything specifically you want to go into, okay, and that question was from Mary, and I'm sorry, let's give you the full name there. That question was from Mary Mann, hold on a second, Mary M-A-N-N, and she asked me about IBITDA, and more importantly, she asked me how to factor in IBITDA in the course of what she does in terms of her very product. And the reason why we're not going to get deep into that with you right now, obviously, is it's her product specifically and how to figure that with her product. So I'm not going to subject everybody else to that. But that's my point, folks. Ask me, and I will help you do that. But Mary, that was a fantastic, fantastic question. Winner of most participative is, let me count up the hand totals and questions that were asked today. 2, 3, 4, okay. I would say that the winner, based on what I have here, goes to, yep, okay, Emily, and I like that name. That's the name of my daughter, just born on St. Patrick's Day, Emily Secor. Emily's asked 7 questions and she chatted over 5 things to me in the course of today. Emily, thank you for being the most participative today. All right. Oh, let me tell you what y'all win. Okay, for the winner of the best question and most participative, they win exactly what they see in front of them. They win a consultation on a Sit Blitz. Now, this is my one commercial for today. Sit Blitz, folks. It's the end of the year. It's a very, very urgent time. If you want to see a sales spike, if you want to see things move, if you want to move the dial on your sales, and you're a sales manager or you're a salesperson, you're trying to do things, get involved with the Sit Blitz. Pick up the phone. Call me, 216-347-6729. Go to my email me. Go to my website. Go to buildyoursalesmachine.com. I have a lot of information about the Sit Blitz there. But, folks, this is the fastest way to impact your sales by the end of the year. Pick up the phone and give me a call. All right, end of blatant commercial. Also, make sure you go to my forum, Fantastic Sales Forum, matriximpact.com/FSF, and that's my blog. A lot of good information there, a lot of things I will be blogging about the webinar today, as a matter of fact. And finally, folks, you can either make sales or you can make excuses, but you can't do both. Everybody that came on board today, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is not an easy process. This is going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of work to do this, but you can do this. I will help you. Pick up the phone and give me a call. Let me help you. Let me help me help you. Help me help you. All right? Remember, tweet over to hashtag @INJREV. I will be hanging on the line here for about, we'll see how long it goes, but please feel free to chat me over a question. Anybody's got a question, and I will answer any questions for the next 15 to 20 minutes. That is today's presentation. Thank you so much for attending. I will also be getting out to everybody the next webinar coming out and more information down the line. But remember, you can either make sales or make excuses, but you can't do both. All right, questions? Questions from anybody? All right, let's see what we got here. All right. First question I got from Kirk Marvel. Kirk, oh, that's a holy cow. You should be Kirk. You should be a TV private eye with that name, Kirk Marvel. Okay, Kirk, what's your question? Under developing relationship. Okay. And underneath the process part, reproducible results. Oh, please don't tell me you're going to fight with me about cold calling. Nope. Okay, good. Okay, Kirk, what do you want to know? Okay. Kirk wants to know, in terms of cold calling, what am I talking about? Initial contact. What I'm trying to say there is, this take a few minutes, because in the course of the webinar, I obviously try and keep things moving. What I'm talking about there is that's an initial contact, folks. Don't think of it as something where you're trying to sell something right then and there. All it is an initial contact. The mistake people make with that initial contact call, cold call, whatever, is they try and do too much with it. They try and sell everything with that call. Think of it as what it is, that initial time that you're trying to reach out to somebody, and that's it. And in terms of that, come up with what you're trying to get done with that. For myself, the initial time that I try and reach out to somebody, all I want to find out, okay, the minimum that I want to find out is I want to know exactly who I need to talk to, down the line. I can't talk to him right now. I can't sweat that, because to think that I can break in on, a vice president or an owner at any given time, that's just wrong. But if I got at least the right name and the right person, then that's something. I also try to make at every initial contact, I try and make sure whoever I talk to, I start to develop a relationship with, start to talk to them. I get a couple pieces of information about them. I ask them, I treat them with respect. So when I call, my calls get forwarded through. So at least I get them on my side. Okay. The way you've got to look at it is that you don't want to have this agenda that, I've got to do this, I got to do that. Have some varied things that you want to get accomplished. That way, every time you go into that initial contact call, you can move forward with things. And if you don't get everything, that's okay. That just gives you something else to go back with next time. Don't try and do everything on that initial contact call. Answer your question, Kirk? All right. Next question. Winston Owen. Winston Owen, what's your question? Okay. Winston wants to know a little bit about my whole concept when I'm talking about the knowledge economy, idea business, thought leaders, and so on. He wants to know a little bit about that. Okay. Well, Winston, let me go into a little more detail there when I talk about the knowledge economy. If you think about it, right now, we're in a world where people can go on the internet and after 15 minutes find out more than you possibly want them to know about anything that you do, okay? Anything that you sell, anything that you have done, okay? Everything, out there now on the internet is out there to be accessed. It's a knowledge economy. Okay, now let's break this down. That's you. Now let's talk about your product. It's the same thing. If somebody's looking for, let's say it's a company that does pallets. Okay, they're just looking for, they're looking to sell pallets, and so some companies looking for more pallets. And what companies can they look? So they type in pallets, let's say it's here in Ohio, pallet companies in Cleveland. And so bang, this listing of pallet companies come up. Everything is accessible to folks so easy, now in terms of getting information. And you can get excluded from the process so fast. It's funny, a good personal friend of mine has a business in town. It's called M.O.B.B. All right, and M.O.B.B is a hiring agency. He's been around for a while. Carmen Izo's been around for a while. And he does a fantastic job. By the way, I highly recommend him if you're ever looking for salespeople. I use him all the time. He's a great, great resource for that. And I asked him, I go, why do you, M.O.B.B, one time, a long time ago, I asked him, why M.O.B.B? Where'd you get that name? He goes, A, because it's the beginning letter in the alphabet, Mo for motivation, and tech for technical, okay, technical and techie. And you think about it, way, way back when, that's how things used to be done. Everything in the yellow pages was you had to be A. So ABC plumbing, ABC that. Why? Because you wanted to be those first couple listings because people got tired with that. Well, it's no different now. The difference is now it's not done by ABC, but it's done by content and relevance. The more information that you have out there, the more ideas you have, the more of a thought leader you are, the more things you have about your brand and about whatever it is that they're looking for. When people type those words, those keywords into a browser now, you want your site to come up higher and stronger and faster than anybody else. And it's not done alphabetically. We all know that. Browsers don't pull up information alphabetically. They pull it up by content, by SEO, by all of that. All right? So think about that. Next time you're going forward, that's why knowledge economy, idea business, thought leader. If you don't think like that, then, like I said, welcome to the world of $50,000 a year. And if that's what you want to make, God bless you. But I'm telling you, that's not that's not what these programs that I'm, doing are about. All right, next question. Peter Richards. Peter Richards, how can I help you? Peter, Peter's from London, England. Actually, he's from Manchester. How you doing? How's the weather? Excellent. Question is, Peter, I don't know you guys can't hear him, but I'm clicking on him as I hear him, so I can hear him in my ear. I apologize. All right. Question about measure, monitor, and modify. Okay. What are some of the things that you're looking at about measure, monitor, and modify? All right. Well, let's talk about that. Okay. When I talk about measure, monitor, modify, Peter, what I'm talking about is virtually everything that you're doing lead generation or selling wise. Okay, now for the purpose of today, let's talk about it in terms of pure lead generation. Whatever you're doing, how much time are you spending in terms of doing certain research so you can get a gist on how long it takes to do certain things. Like for myself, I can tell you exactly how long it takes me to put together an hour presentation like I just did today. It takes me somewhere in the neighborhood about 5 to 7 hours. All right, that's about my average that it handles. So I know that it's going to take me 5 to 7 hours to put together today's presentation. Why? Because everything that's got to go into it. So I know I can plan my day along those lines. Now, for you, in the lead generation, how many emails to how many responses do you got? How many executive, say we did the EAC, executive assistant contact. How many emails or how many phone calls to the executive assistant before you got through to a decision maker? How many times did you have to talk to a decision maker before you got, and so on and so on. You need to know how much time and how much effort and how much resource you're putting into things, because you want to be able to speak back to your sales management, your marketing, and if you're a sales manager, to your director of sales, your vice president, or your owner, to tell them exactly what your efforts are yielding. And just like with with your customer, and you want to talk in financial terms, you want to talk in financial terms to them too. You want them to know that you're looking at the bottom line, that you're just not throwing out 15 million things hoping that it all falls and say, well, it cost $15 million to do this, but we got $4 million in sales. You want to show them that you're looking at things financially, you're looking at things in a way, and you're trying to run your team or your territory like a business. So measure, monitor, and modify at everything. And on the modification part of things, always looking to be doing tweaks. Try things a little bit differently, okay? Give you an example. Today I did a webinar today at 11 o'clock, all right? I had about the same response that I have at 1:45, okay? But I had more people sign up for this one. Less people sign up for this one initially. More people signed up in the last couple days. I got somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 folks signed up in just the last couple days, and then normally I get a big push up front. I don't know why that is, but I'll be looking at the data to figure that out. And is 1:45 a better time to do than 11 o'clock? I don't know, but I'll be looking at the data to find that out, as well as the format. You guys have gotten different emails in the past for different webinars. Is this the right format for it? Is the places that I'm advertising, so on and so on and so on. Where am I getting my hits? Where am I getting my push? Measure, monitor, modify everything. What else? What kind of questions we got? Who else is out there with a question of these? Scotty Rieger. Hi, Scotty. How you doing? Where are you in from? Scotty's from Manitowoc. Scotty, what's your question? Okay. Okay. Scotty wants to know more about specifically, more about when I'm talking about the MBA program, that I'm mentioning, but not the words so much, but tying things together. Scotty, like I said, there are a lot of different resources that, based on where you're at. I don't know exactly what's available to you, MBA wise, but I can tell you this: there are different things out there. There's stuff online you can do and that type of thing. Is that no? That's not what you're asking. Okay, go ahead. What are you asking specifically? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. What Scotty's asking more about then is as you're tying these things together, okay, what are you trying to get across to folks? What is the end game here? Well, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to achieve what I call, or I'll rephrase that, what's called a flash of genius, okay, quote unquote. In our patent law, there's something that says, I think it was put in somewhere around 1925 or maybe I don't know when exactly it was put in, but anyways, in American patent law, it says you've got to be able to demonstrate the flash of genius when this idea came up that's different than from what everybody else came up with. And in my case, what you want to have happen is that flash of genius to be seen. You want to be able to see that on the eyes of your customer as you're going through this and putting this together, that they get that flash, that they say, this guy gets it. This guy talks my language. This guy talks the language of my bosses, and I don't feel embarrassed putting him in front of people. I want to make sure that I learn something from this. You're looking for that flash of genius, okay? That look in their eye that says, I get it. I get it. Exactly, Scotty. Yes. It's that you want them to recognize that you know what you're talking about, but more importantly, you want them to say, gosh, this is just something else I can't live without. And then you're going to be that first phone call then next time that they're thinking about something. All right. Next one. Next question in. Well, that's a unique name. The gentleman's name is John Patata. Okay, it's spelled like potato, but but it's pronounced patata. John, what's your question? No. John's question is this something that we can just roll out and see how it works and just start trying on customers? No to the no. All right, I don't believe in practicing on customers anything. I believe in practicing, simulating everything in-house, going over things in fine detail first. Now, let's be very clear on what I'm saying here. I'm not saying go until everything's perfect, because nothing's ever going to be perfect, and perfect is the enemy of productive. Because if we worry about things just being perfect, we're never going to do anything. What I am saying to you is that if you practice on customers, if you try something without seeing exactly how it might work, without walking through the potential responses, if you try something without testing something first in-house, it's silly. It's like the safety motto. A lot of companies that go into, their safety motto is safety. Don't learn by accident. I love that saying. And it's the same thing in sales, okay? Sales, don't learn by accident. We're going to learn by accident regardless when we're in sales. We're going to learn something that we didn't know. But you want to try and put as many things in your control as possible. You can't control everything, but put as many things you control as possible. The last thing I want to have happen is you to go out there and practice on your customer and really fall flat on your face. And I know some sales managers out there will say, well, no, that's the way you learn, John. You go out there and you get a bloody nose, you get a black eye, and you'll never do that again. Well, you know what? I'd much rather learn by closing a sale than by getting a bloody nose and getting beat up by a customer. That's just me, all right? Spend your time getting a black nose, a black eye or a bloody nose in-house, okay? practice with your boss, or if you are the boss, practice with your people, okay? Get the bloody nose in a simulation, doing it there where it's a nice, safe environment where the worst thing's going to happen is you're going to have to buy everybody a beer or get laughed at for a couple minutes, and you're not going to lose, you know, a multi-$1,000 sale on something. All right. Next questiones. What do we got here? All right, next questiones. Yes, okay. Yes, okay. Okay, slow down. All right. Anna? Yes. Anna, you talk as fast as I do, and I apologize. There's a little bit of a break between the communication here. Okay, Anna has a question, and what she's asking is you know, is there, you know, she's asking, to kind of sum it up and make it easy for you guys, there's two myths, okay, that I always talk about. And one of the myths is anyone can sell, and the other myth is that there's only one right way to sell. Okay, both of those things, you know, in terms of what we're doing here, are completely fallacious. All right. First of all, anyone can sell. I led off this whole program today with not anyone can sell, because not everyone would put in the time to do what's necessary to be successful. They just won't do it. So why in the world would you even think that anyone can sell? The majority of salespeople out there won't put in the time to do what's necessary. It's as simple as that. That's not even taking into account skill sets and everything that else is necessary, Anna. But not anyone can sell. It takes a very special person. You got to have thick skin. You've got to be smart. You've got to be a hard worker. This is a whole nother webinar. But not anyone can sell. Next myth is one right way to sell. I think if nothing else, what I did today is I showed you that there are multiple things that are out there. There are different things that can happen. There are different things that you can use, and there is no one single thing anywhere that can possibly be that winning thing, okay, that best way to sell. Everybody's going to be different. I can show you what works for me. I can show you what works in my business. I can show you, gosh, anything like that, okay? But I can't show you necessarily what works for you. I can show you some of the methods and techniques that you can use in your business, and we can put them together. It's like anything. Everybody's got different skill sets. Give you an example, LeBron James, okay? Hate the guy with the passion. I'm from Cleveland, so obviously I hate him because he went down to Miami. But not everybody knows this, but the guy was a world-class, let me rephrase that, an all-state caliber football player before he was a world-class basketball player. Well, he could do both basketball or football. He chose to do basketball, I think wisely, and I think everybody else would say wisely too. All right, so he's got a transferable skill set. But could he take that same skill set and be an accountant? Probably not. Could he take the skill set that he has and run a company? Maybe, maybe not. But my point is there's always going to be something different. So there's no one right way to do things, no one right way to sell. It's a combination of things, and it's based on your industry. So you combine those two things, those two myths together. Anyone can sell in one right way to sell, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And that's why I give things in what I call the logical, not linear setup for you all. Okay, a way that shows you a lot of different things that you can use, and you can plug the different levers that you can plug in that work for your business. And if you guys want the help, pick up the phone. You know, Twitter hashtag me, email me, you know, whatever it is, and I'll work on those things with you together. Answer your question, Anna? All right. Dale asked a question a little while ago. Dale Sheriff, how come Dale he just tweeted this over to me here. How come you don't have a superhero named Productivity Man? His archenemy could be Mr. Perfection. Very funny, Dave. Very funny. But no, don't have that one. Thank you very much, though. But it's very clever. All right, what other questions I got? What other questions I got? What good grammar do I got? I got. All right. Give it a couple more minutes, a couple more seconds here. Anybody else? Looks like the questions are drying up. Okay. Folks, like I said, I will be available, via email or also at the Twitter hashtag, getting you answers, 140 characters at a time over there. And if I see something in a lot of detail, I'll also pick up I'll just email over to you and send you a much more detailed one at the Twitter hashtag, hashtag INJREV. Folks, that's it for today. That's it for today for Inject Yourself into the Revenue Stream. I hope you got out of it what you were hoping to get out of it today. I know that's exactly what my goal was, seeing ways that you can find to get into the revenue stream to affect things that impact your customer's bottom line. If you got any questions for me, don't hesitate to give me a call. Don't hesitate to Twitter. Don't hesitate to email me. But the audio portion of today will be ending. Thanks for your time. Have a great day and look forward to seeing you on the next Matrix webinar. I'm out of here.